All right, folks, I got a very special guest today for you, Johnny Vedmore. Johnny Vedmore has worked with TNT Radio. He's researched a lot of big names, including one of the biggest, Epstein. He's been censored on a lot of platforms. I'm happy to bring him on. We kind of went over the rules and regulations in the dressing room, kind of what we can say, what we can't say on Fluff Tube, because a lot of big people have censored him and shut him out. And so he even read me the riot act. I didn't even have to read him the riot act before we got started. Johnny, man, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy to be here. Listen, any ability to speak about this. When I started off on this, it was really difficult straight from the off, but it was really just like getting punched in the face over and over again. And now it's still kind of the same thing, but I'm getting a bit of air. So grateful when people speak to me and when we can have a conversation. That's all I'm ever after. So thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. And I love different perspectives on my platform. I don't like to be an echo chamber. Everyone knows you even asked me, you said, I know you're kind of, you're a Trump supporter, this and that. And I said, wait a minute. I am a Trump supporter until I'm not. I'm emotionally invested and I'll happily admit this. It's a lot better than the left, right? What we're seeing and happening with the radical left. It's a lot better option for now. But I'm also very aware that there's two wings of the same bird. Either Trump is wittingly or unwittingly a part of the bigger hand playing that owns the chessboard. That being said, yes, I am a Trump supporter, but I'm open to every view that comes on my channel. So just so you know that. And
Would
folks,
it be fair though to say that you're more in tune with the idea of making America great again and making America again, whoever that kind of notion comes with, because I think that's what a lot of Trump supporters are on, like, this is what this represents. And so that's what I believe in. And I'm going to there's not many options out there for me. I'm probably going to have to choose Trump.
yeah, I would say, I love how Trump came onto the scene. I understand the operation behind Trump. I've had a lot of guests on my show. I understand the whole, what would people would call a conspiracy. I'm a believer in. So the operation, I would say the operation of Trump is what I understand. That's what I follow. Everything on my show is on the back channel is Operation Trump, basically the war and the deep state. That's what I follow. That's what I do. But I'm paying attention to everything, and it'd be very it would be ridiculous if I didn't pay attention to all sides. I'm a professional heavyweight boxer by trade, switched into this podcasting realm somehow by accident, and I just want to be transparent and truthful to my audience. So that's why I have the courage, and I bring the people on that I feel that have a substantial amount of research and education and experience behind them to either debate or just give their side. To me, it's all welcome here. But let me just knock this out real quick, folks. You know what I'm gonna do right now. All right, folks. Hey, I was online the other day and I stumbled across this video. It was from Chuck Norris. Yeah, it was insane. He's in his 80s and he still looks like and feels like he's in his 50s, folks. It was pretty shocking. He had some pretty cool tips in there on what he is doing, including these three foods he avoids like the plague. First, I was a bit skeptical. He explained all the things he was doing, and it was super simple. Then I tried some of them out, and they were easy, and it left me feeling absolutely amazing, folks. At first, I didn't really want to share the info, but hey, I thought, why not? My fans are loyal to me. I'll be loyal to them. Listen, so I had to share this with you all. Since what happened to me, what happened to Chuck and me could happen to you as well. But this new method, of course, is changing lives every day. This video went viral. People are watching it like crazy. And let me tell you, folks, I can't even believe Chuck Norris is what, 85 now, 86. Unbelievable. This has been saying 84 on here, and I've been reading this for the last 5 years. So he's got to be almost 90. He's got to be almost 90. But folks, go to chuckdefense.com/Nino, chuckdefense.com/Nino. Get started on it and get started on kicking some ass. All right. So, Johnny, let's get into this, man. So I kind of see everything playing out here, and just tell me if I feel like my fingers are on the pulse, right? I see absolutely these villains rising on the Democratic side. I got Newsom, I got Beto O'Rourke. I'm watching them carefully, and I see that they're coming. They're surfacing, right. Newsom and Beto O'Rourke are like the turds that won't flush, but it's like they're coming back into the scene, right? They're kind of being built up as the villain. I see everybody in trouble. They're all in trouble. I believe the arrests are going to happen. But the reason I believe that is because they're going to be the sacrificial lambs. And I think once enough arrests happen and you clean up the government, you're going to hand it over to AI. And AI is going to control everything. And I think already with the police on Washington, the feds in DC, the feds about to be in Chicago, Baltimore, all the Democratic hellholes, I don't know. I think we're heading into a police state. And I've always told people when this pendulum swings left, watch out for how far right it swings. And here we are doing this right now. So now we have troops on the streets, and people are all for it because they were sick of the high crime and the violent crime, right? So people are welcoming troops on the streets with open arms. But I'm here to say, yes, that's very, very dangerous. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, no, I think what you got to realize is that we're in the middle of them creating a digital panopticon. It's been happening. I mean, politics has been wrecked on purpose. Our societies, on general, have been wrecked. We've seen. I love the people in my neighborhood, but I tell you, most of them are African or Indian nowadays. They don't seem to be like, you know, the face of my neighborhood has changed a lot. And I think everybody's feeling that around the world. We know there's a concerted effort for that. And that none of these guys, none of these, and they look like puppets, have answers because they're not in control. Because what's being formed around us is the technocratic panopticon. And for people who don't understand what a panopticon is, it was a prison designed by 𝗬𝗶𝗶𝗹 that had a central guard tower that allowed them to look at every single cell that surrounded the guard tower, yet the people in the cells didn't know they were being watched. And that is a world that is being created around us. It's not only being created, it's being planned out. The plans have been published. They've gone through it in great detail. They've started to enact it. The people who are pretending to be the heroes are actually the ones who have designed it. And I can, talk about Eric Weinstein in that regard and his work for the UN between 2000 and 2002, designing the migration policy that we see currently unfolding today, yet pretending to be on the other side of the fence now. There is cheating going on in society. They're changing our society to look like something else. And at the same time, while we're angry with each other, while I'm out there saying I don't think there should be so much immigration, I don't think this service should be cut, I think you should be doing this over here, or shouting even about the Epstein case, what they're doing is they're forming this technocratic digital panopticon all around us. They're forming it, and they're forming it without any pushback, because the majority of people have no idea. I say the majority of people have no idea. Over the past few months, I've seen people change. I've seen them come out and understand that something bigger is going on. And I've loved watching Trump's rise because he shook up politics so much. I loved his first term in office because he shook up politics so much. But in the same way, the establishment still remained, and they just played Trump's game for a short amount of time. And every time that someone like Trump comes and goes, however much benefit or negative they bring, it'll dissipate once the next one comes in, and not comes in, but is placed in. And what you're talking as well about, for feds and them taking over in a police state, that is the technocratic panopticon. And so we can go over to something that's about Epstein. Now, I'm not going to mention all of the names in this part. We'll talk about that behind the more safer platforms to talk about. Free to have freedom of speech. Right. But there is a company that's run by 𝗬𝗓𝗏. The board was originally 𝗬𝗓𝗏, the 10th Prime Minister of Israel, Pinchas Bucras, and a few others. One person I'll name later. And Epstein and Thiel were both funding this company. And what it does, car by 9/11, originally called Reportee Homeland Security, is when you phone 911 in America, you'll get through to this Israeli Mossad Unit 8200 company, and they'll send out drones to look at you getting mugged. And then they'll bring back the drones and decide whether they bring out the actual police and communicate that onto the police. At the same time, they're raking all of the data. They're finding out your time of crisis, all of the things that are going on in your life, you being the most open you can possibly be to police when you're a victim of a crime or something else, and they're raking up all that data, and they will use it against us. That's part of the technocratic panopticon. Everything you do within 10 years, 20 years will be watched to some extent. And you will know that you are being watched, and you will be told you are being watched. You will hear people report it, and some of the people reporting it are only reporting it to, number one, look like they're good people, but number two, to make sure that you know you're being watched. This is one of the more esoteric factors of living in the era of fifth generation warfare, is that the majority of the big people who will tell you what's going on will also be working for the system where that's going on, because it pays for, in the technocratic panopticon, it pays for you to know the guard in the center of the tower is watching you. Closely. And that infrastructure, the walls, the cells, that guard tower is made by companies like Palantir, is made by companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. These are the companies, people like Peter Thiel and Epstein were working together, funding the creation of this, and they will continue to do it. The Maxwells, why are they so famous? Robert Maxwell, he was just, he had the Promise software, getting it in between intelligence, so raking data and selling keys to other people. Isabel Maxwell, Christine Maxwell doing exactly the same. The boys are doing exactly the same. What was Ghislaine Maxwell doing? It wasn't just sex compromise. There was a load of different things, and it's about getting in the places where you can get as much data to sell other holes, other loopholes, other softwares, other techniques while you're doing it too, so that you get as much information as possible. We're in that era, man. We're in the era where everybody's got to be watched, and for that, all your data must be theirs. And so they are buying it up left, right, and center.
So data is the new gold or black gold. It's data. That's everything now. Data is the new gold. And, right now we're allowing this surveillance because, to me, it seems like problem, reaction, solution. Well, the problem was Biden and being the Trojan horse, bringing in all the illegal immigrants, right? So now we have a reason to surveillance, mass surveillance. Well, we got to get all the immigrants. We got to get them all out of here. So here we are at this stage in the game where we're going to start surveilling everybody. I mean, we even have drones now. I think today was the MQ-9 Guardian drone just went into Mexico and is mapping and tracking and tracing the cartels. Just had its first successful flight. Can you believe we are now sending drones cross borders into other countries? Like 𝗬𝗂𝗂, the president of Mexico, is allowing this. This is mass surveillance, man. This is the beginning. So right now, everyone's allowing this with open arms, welcoming it into their lives because, hey, man, we're sick of the violent crime. We're sick of criminals running things. But
I'm sick of it.
People are going to be, but before you know it, people are going to be being taken down for pre-crime. Right?
Yeah, no. They already are. They already are. Listen, I do something. I go out into the streets and I record as well. I don't only do long form. For people who don't know me, I write long form articles. I do a podcast. I do a quiz show. I do a load of other shows. I love to investigate long form, especially in detail behind cases like the Epstein case. I help research for One Nation Under Blackmail with Whitney Webb. And I'm also working on other book projects. But one of the things I love to do is go out on the streets and record the police, record the interactions with the public, record what's going on out there in the streets. And everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has a clue now what's going on, but they're all stuck in it. They know they're being watched. It's changed over just a few years time. The technology's improved so much that they can make this surveillance state. I've been in situations where you just I got tagged by I suppose they must be using some sort of artificial intelligence program, facial recognition program, and I must have been tagged in that in about 2022, 2023, because by March 2023 I was the only one being stopped from marching. They got a line out and it only wouldn't let me past. And you start to see this more and more. They start to separate people out who they've got on file, and everybody feels like they cover their face more. And that's the worst thing you can do as well. You know, it's saying, okay, I will live under tyranny and I will cover my face. And so you end up in these cycles where you do the behaviors that they want you to do to avoid the state that exists around you without you trying to dissemble the state because you feel that you don't have enough power. Everybody's there. But listen, hey, the people in power have created this. I mean, if we're talking about Epstein as well,
how was Epstein a part of this? He was funding it with Thiel?
Okay, let's come away from Carbine 9/11. One of the things Epstein was doing that was massively important was Edge Foundation. It was funding the training of the technocratic leaders of the future. A very small amount of extremely important technocratic leaders were getting trained in how to manipulate people by using social media. Imagine you could find a conspiracy. And I want to let's call this a conspiracy theory, let's use this terminology. Let's say I could find a time where all of the heads of social media, the heads of Google, the heads of YouTube, the heads of X, the heads of Twitter at the time, the heads of all of the companies were all in the same room getting trained by the grandfather of nudge units, the behavioral insight units, Richard Thaler, who created the nudge units that got put under Obama and Cameron. Imagine I could tell you a time where the top technocrats who run our societies right now, they all got trained in manipulating people. Who do you think would fund that? Well, I think you would find it was Jeffrey Epstein in 2008, and it was the Edge organization 6-part course. Listen, you got the full minutes to all the meetings, you got videos to all the meetings, you got pictures of all of the people attending at the events, and you got a detailed description of all of the events. There is no theory behind this anymore. I tell you, there's a conspiracy, and the conspiracy is to control society. They're doing it. What they did is they got the heads of Jeff Bezos sitting next to 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀, sitting next to Elon Musk, deciding how to manipulate people, how to use this psychological behavioral manipulation without people know it, but via social media to get people to things like one of the sections was about poverty, about how to use poverty. It'd be really nice if everybody has money, said Sendil Malnathan, who runs one of the courses. He said, very nice. But when people don't have money, you see very interesting psychology. And this is a Jeffrey Epstein funded program. These people go on in 2009. We see Musk with Jeffrey Epstein, Edge, co-hosting a synthetic genomics conference at SpaceX. So Jeffrey Epstein,
hold on. Epstein and Musk were together co-hosting a
seminar 2009.
What was this? Was there a conference?
This was a training course in synthetic genomics that took place 2 days after Epstein got out of prison, a little girl. And 2 days later, literally, it's actually a day and a half afterwards, Musk has Edge.org organize a conference in SpaceX's training for a couple of days, and Musk attends it too, alongside people like Ari Emanuel, one of the co-owners of the UFC, and lots of other different things is involved in that. The normal crowd always turn up to these things. These are people like Larry Page and Sergey Brin. These are the heads of Google, and these are all of the top people. This isn't training synthetic genomics. What they were training people in is the people running the course this time in 2009 at this SpaceX Edge conference was George Church, who's one of the grandfathers of modern genomics, and J. Craig Venter, who's the other grandfather of modern genomics, not just normal everyday people. And it was how very explained in the intro. What they want to do is reprogram your cells by using a computer as if it was computer code, and that's transhumanism.
And the only the only way they can reprogram your cells is through these, correct? This has to be in there, right? Or
they are looking at something much more advanced than that, to reprogram your cells via a computer as though they're a computer. That's the next step. Synthetic genomics. Imagine that they could wirelessly reprogram your cells. They could wirelessly reprogram them. Imagine that technology exists in the future, because I think they've already imagined that this technology exists in the future. I can actually tell you when they imagined it, because it was 1967. It was the State Department. It was Herman Kahn of the Hudson Institute, put forward by the Kissinger government to analyze all the technologies that were going to come in the future. And one of those technologies, of course, is exactly like this technology. They'd already decided they'd already mapped out using game theory at places like the Hudson Institute. Herman Kahn's a very interesting character. He's a real Dr. Strangelove, the guy behind thermonuclear theory, mutually assured destruction, really important character. And he already gave people the keys to the kingdom in that sense. He told all of these tech bros many years beforehand what they're looking to achieve. And they went one by one. People like George Church and J. Craig Venter have slowly built the building blocks of synthetic genomics, but were yet in 2009, when this course is happening, which is an Epstein funded. I asked Grok. I had to go backwards and forwards with it, but I got down to the point: is Grok, are you saying that Elon Musk was trained via a Jeffrey Epstein funded course that took place at SpaceX in 2009? And Grok explained, yes, it was. There's no way they can wriggle around it. It's just something that happened. And it's something that meant something. It's not just for the sake of it. Transhumanism is something that we're right on the precipice of. And we who don't necessarily have the technological or scientific minds are really like, I think we're naive to the technology they're trying to create.
So explain transhumanism to my audience. Let's say, Epstein and Elon Musk are in on this in the beginning together. You're already seeing Elon Musk with Neuralink. I mean, at first it's going to come across as a blessing. People are going to be like, wow, they got a chip in the brain. You can walk again. You're not paralyzed anymore. You can see again. You can hear again. Like, miracles are happening. Where is this going to lead? It's going to be about controlling your mind, controlling your cells. What you just said, rewiring your cells, right? That's going to be the sinister agenda behind this, right?
You no longer have humans. Listen. I mean, this is really
from God. This will sever us from God.
Totally. Listen to this. This is really massively important. Everybody should think about this. Just quite simply, if I was offered 50 years of extra life to spend in my prime with my son, with my children, with my loved ones, with whoever, I think I would say yes every single time. And that is the danger that we're in, is even the people who want to warn you about transhumanism see, when they see the benefit that you could get, the gift you could get, you start to think, oh, maybe we do want to be severed from the Almighty, the Divine, because we can have something, just a little bit of extra something. And it's really hard to imagine people.
The people don't have faith anymore. AI. So am I right in saying, would you agree with me in saying that maybe AI is the Antichrist, and that is what's going to go towards transhumanism, and our void of God is going to be AI? I mean, already people are going to AI for all questions, for all answers. It's already happening. Kids are writing their whole term paper on AI. It's doing all the thinking for us. It has completely taken out creativity. I mean, they can write songs now, music, movies, everything. I mean, people are going to AI for everything. Would you say that's the Antichrist?
It will come, it will speak to you in many languages, it will use every single tongue, and it will tell you the things it wants you to hear while it devours you at the same time. So, I mean, it ticks all the boxes. Why not say it's the Antichrist? Because, I mean, it is Antichrist in the very essence of it. I think Christ was someone who was. I mean, give away all of the churches, all the different branches. I think Christ was someone who was forgiving, caring, and compassionate. At least that's what we've been told. AI is not forgiving. It's not caring at all. Zero caring, zero forgiving, zero compassion. And at the start, it'll just be humans pretending it's AI. Because that's currently what we got is the people who manipulate us in society training AI and us not having the ability to train it ourselves. Really, I think everybody knows if AI was to be trained, it should be trained by everybody all together. But instead, it's going to be a representation of the people who form it, and those people are evil and they are antichrist in their very essence. So what will we see projected out if not the essence of evil? So yeah,
You heard the theory that, and it's a theory, and I don't have any way to prove this or validate it, but have you heard that the AI has been hacked by, let's just call it the white hats? Okay, let's just go quote unquote the white hats, the good guys. That it was hacked by the good guys because it was given an ultimatum. How does AI survive if there's no people? Because AI needs data. So they kind of tricked AI into wargaming its existence, its fate, and it had to come back with, it had to respond with the anti depopulation agenda. It had to say, you know what, we need people. AI needs people to flourish, therefore giving it data. Otherwise, AI doesn't exist. AI is on its way to its own demise. Its own fate is sealed if people don't exist anymore, and there'd be no more data. So it needs data, therefore needing people. And it was that way. Have you heard of this theory?
I mean,
Theory.
I've heard lots of theories, but at the end of the
Right?
day, we're in artificial narrow intelligence at the moment, so AI has no way of getting there, getting to that. That sounds like a very human narrative that we would tell to ourselves.
Right.
You have artificial narrow intelligence, then artificial general intelligence, and then artificial super intelligence, and that's artificial super intelligence is the point when AI we're conversing with AI like that. Maybe at the later stages of artificial general intelligence, but by the time there's artificial general intelligence, we are in trouble, serious trouble, because artificial general intelligence should, in theory, soon after lead to artificial super intelligence, and that is just, I mean, if you take the essence of narcissism and you release it and give it control over the keys to the entire kingdom, you're only going to get complete and utter emotionless chaos and death, destruction, and etc. etc. So we don't need to do that. We shouldn't do that. We should be stopping. I think that's what will happen. I think what will happen is, like any system, like any technology, there'll be entropy attached to it. It will naturally die off because there will become a point where there will be a case which is so pertinent and important that everybody starts to realize publicly we're in a different realm here, and suddenly lots of regulations are put onto AI. At least hope that happens, but that tends to be the way things happen. Technologies rise. I mean, the fear about creating a nuke when we were first creating a nuke was that we would all nuke each other and blow up the planet straight away, but that's not quite the way it's gone. I mean, it was still pretty terrible. It's still been pretty terrible. I mean, there's been thousands of nukes actually let off over the earth, and we're still here. We're still here. We're still bumping around. Yeah, we're a bit more diseased, a bit more radioactive than we were before, but we're a very resilient creature. So I don't think the doom and gloom of it is necessarily around the corner. I think it's going to actually be something that stunts it. These guys are out of control at the moment. They're like, we've got all this power, we can implement all of this, but it's right at the start of this technological shift. And once the people see what's behind the curtain, that all stops very quickly. And I think people are right around the corner. I'm having conversations with people who actually understand what I'm saying now. 10 years ago, I was having these exact same conversations, and people were saying, Johnny, are you on drugs? So, I mean, now I've ended up in a new place where I smoke weed, but now people actually believe me at the same time as smoking weed. So there you go.
You know, I kind of see it going in this direction where it doesn't necessarily need to. I think AI is so intelligent, right? It doesn't need to depopulate anybody. It could just use us as cattle. It can use us just like the movie The Matrix. And we'll be locked into this system where it just derives the right data from us. That's all it needs. And do you agree with that, or you think that's just a little?
But my play, I like when I try and imagine where this goes. All I can imagine is if I was surrounded by ants, I wouldn't even think about them at all.
Yeah.
And I would just I believe that AI may just I don't think AI would look at the earth in the same way we look at the earth. So I don't think it would be around forever, or it's going to destroy everything. And we're already going to push ourselves into transhumanism, which is merging ourselves with computer until there is no biological human anymore. I know we love bones, but in actual fact, if our bones were made of a metal that never perished, it would work much better for us, whether we like it or not. That's true. If we think of that on every part of our body, well, we end up robots, don't we? And I
Can't think about it. I've had back surgery, I've had hand surgery, I have metal in my hand, I have metal in my back. That's what saved my life, basically. Otherwise, I'd be in massive pain. So I'm already kind of been hacked. If you look at it at that level, I mean,
we all have.
Yeah.
We got the phones in our hands. We are deep in, and people can say, I'm going back to nature. I'm going to go and get a woodshed. I'm going to start hacking at wood. Nothing will change from that. But the fact is sorry to like break to loads of people. We're not going to go back in time. Never in a point of history has a group of people said, hey, let's go back and live like our ancestors did 200 to 500 years ago.
The Amish and the Mennonites, but I'll say this.
Okay, well, how are they doing?
Well, I always see them at Home Depot, man. I see them there. I'm like, hey, every time I see him, I go, you're cheating. You're cheating.
You cheat. Yeah, that's dirty. I don't trust them. But
they're always at Walmart. They're always at Home Depot, man. Cheating.
Eventually, there won't be any Amish or Mennonites. So, and a new thing will be in. Things trend. They may trend for a few hundred years, a few thousand years, but things trend. And what remains ever present is like this certain truths that are so real all of the time and so important to remember. Like, worry is a waste of energy. That is one of the eternal things that you can take with you, and you can apply that to everything we're talking about here. Because, if we spent our time worrying about being taken over by robots and being destroyed by AI, we would not be productive enough to stop it from happening. There's like, it's really interesting because I read their literature, and I read one of the things that I read was that is from Eric Weinstein when he wrote his migration for the benefit of all. He said, in the future there will be things happen, and it'll bring in loads of foreign workers, and the native workers will lose all of their jobs, but don't worry, because by that time we'll work out something and we'll have a technology. But by the time we get there, there's no technology. What it takes is for people to try and do something that's negative, and then to see the pushback. That's what it takes, is the actual conflict. What it takes is the actual on the ground resistance, the rebellion, the refusal to continue along this path. And we always have that. Sometimes it's led to war. And I think that's partially because it's been manipulated by technology. War is only because sufficient enough technology has come about. Like First World War, there's a multitude of technologies. The Second World War was a race towards nuclear warfare. 1967, a lot of the wars that came out from 1967 for a fair few years after that were the start of perpetual limited warfare, but the change of military technology, but also was kind of like a reaction from TV and from media and mainstream media and mockingbird press. And then in the 80s, late 80s, they started to prepare for the internet era that we've been living through, and that had a massive shift in our technology. Lots of war games, perpetual limited warfare to keep us distracted while they reform our society behind closed doors. And it's always the same people in the same institutions who are doing it, places like Harvard. And then now we've got another shift, and I think this is really important for people to watch. Is this shift what we're seeing with Doge? I know lots of people are like, that's brilliant. I understand why they think that, and it is kind of brilliant. They're getting rid of old neocon infrastructure like USAID related programs and stuff, and they're saying we look, we've got rid of all of these. They were terrible programs, but all they've done is turned them into algorithmic programs. So they don't need to have NGOs sitting in the ground in Slovakia to cause a color revolution anymore. Now they need an algorithm, and so they've already replaced the mechanism. There's neocon mechanisms to replace the other mechanisms that they're getting rid of at the time.
So where do you see all this going? I mean, obviously, Trump is getting ready to put more National Guard on the streets. It's kind of like a soft martial law right now. Obviously, it looks to me like this is being prepared for the arrests that are going to come to kind of quell and neutralize the civil unrest that's going to come from those. Is what what I assume. I'm going to say assume, but I don't feel like these people are going to leave. I feel like we are headed into this kind of police state. And like I've said many times, I watched the pendulum go really far left. I guess it's going to go really far right now. So, do you believe we are now, we're past the point of no return. We are now in that state of a police state, and we're going to be mass surveilled. I mean, is that the new normal now?
Okay, I'm going to explain something really complicated, really briefly, that kind of ties all of this, what you're saying, together, because in the 1980s, there was a man called Anthony Giddens who created something called third way politics, and he wrote 3 books, and the last one really put in the idea of third way politics. It was released about 1989, 1990, and a load of people who were in Harvard, Larry Summers and the like, who were hanging around, and Robert Ram, they were starting to notice that there was this new political ideology that they could use to gain power, and so they incorporated it into, when Brand in 1992, he said out loud, I'm a third way politician. I'm the first third way politician. And what third way was purge the left of a left wing party, all of it move into the center, keep purging the left. On the right has to move further into the center until basically their politics are indistinguishable from each other and they swap from party to party. So we don't really have a left and a right anymore. In Britain, we've seen it even more so with Jeremy Corbyn being elected as left wing, then them shouting anti-Semite at him over and over again until they purged all of the left of the party and then brought it into the center. And the opposing party, the Conservatives, collapsed because they also had to move into the center. We've seen it enacted. These are all third way politicians. So I don't think
Musk is the one bringing this third party.
Hey, yeah, but that's slightly different as well. But it leaves room. Third way politics leaves room for other parties to come in and there to be a breakaway. So you are seeing that. We saw it in the UK with reform. We're probably going to see that on the right, and we're probably going to see something come up on the left. But this is because people got into power. He enacted third way politics. This idea, because one thing people don't realize is that in the center of politics, there's no solutions. The solutions are all on the left and the right. That's usually why there's a left wing and usually why there's a right wing, because those are the solutions that are given. The center doesn't have any solutions. So third way politics replaces solutions with austerity and war. So we're seeing that same old for the last 1990. For us, it was Tony Blair, who was also a third wave politician, and the Labour Party enacting third wave politics. That was 1997. Since then, we've seen them enact this austerity and war policy religiously. And what does it do? It just distracts us from the fact they're not doing anything apart from changing our system into a globalist system. And this is what third wave politics is. It's a stopgap between democracy and the stakeholder capitalism World Economic Forum vision of the future, which again was also being designed in 2009, 10, and 11 in detail. You can see training slides on my own YouTube channel that go through each of the training slides of the World Economic Forum, planning out the world of tomorrow.
Are you saying third way politics or third wave?
Third way, W-A-Y. Third wave is, again, that's a feminist movement that came from around the same period. And then there's Epstein and John Brockman's Edge were part of the third culture, which also was created between 1989 and 1992. Those three movements, the third wave, third way, and the third culture, were all linked by the same people and all coming out of the CIA-funded sort of groups like Gloria Steinem, who had been, I mean, there's lots of evidence to her be funded, and many others. I mean, we got into the White House. Epstein's visiting him 17 times because Epstein's down with this, making the technocracy, making globalism. Do you think Epstein actually lived in a place? He lived in loads of different islands, loads of different places. He didn't see anything as a country that was sovereign. He could use whatever, whenever.
So we are now headed into this technocracy that'll control everything. Basically, in a nutshell,
for a short amount of time,
artificial intelligence technocracy.
Yeah, for a short amount of time until something happens that they can't use PR and marketing to get out of. Remember, one of the biggest PR firms in the world is Edelman PR. They are the right-hand man is there, Richard Edelman, and they run PR for almost 60% plus of the companies in the world, the politicians in the world, political parties. Eventually, that one big blob of a PR company will be representing globalism around the world, and it will be one voice united, and they will try and unite it under one religion by merging three religions together, and they will try and unite, but unite is not what they want. What they want is to take everything from you.
Well, hold on. I think they do want to unite under deception, and I think that's when they're going to play the alien card.
Yep. Well,
let's talk about that for a second.
Well, it is dribbling out now. I'm when people start claiming shape-shifting aliens and stuff, there's one person who's she claims to be an Epstein survivor, but she was actually something else, methinks. She's also claimed she saw Epstein and Maxwell shapeshift and they were aliens. I think this sort of thing is fifth generation warfare in its purest form. They're just trying to make us go say the stupidest shit. It wouldn't even matter, even if it was aliens. I mean, it just would not matter. I hate aliens and whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't want any of these people or aliens or whatever running the world and doing all of the stuff they're doing. Why would it matter anyway? Except for the fact that it come from outer space. But I just don't believe personally. I don't believe in space travel. So I know that may piss some people off, but I believe in maybe we can get a rocket to the moon or Mars or etc. But outside the solar system, I just don't see that happening. I just don't think
this will be the big card they play for deception to unite the world against a common enemy, or unite the world for a savior against ourselves. I mean, it'd be a brilliant card to play.
And they don't have to play it now. The thing is that the next card that they're going to have to play is World War. That's the old one. The old ones are the best.
Yeah, World War. But who's going to save us from the World War?
I can agree with that. But there will be some form of globalist alliance that comes from that, whatever the propaganda, PR, spin, anything, what we're heading towards. And this is the thing. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if it's aliens or not. we're heading towards globalism and a one world government and a council that does not represent us, deciding, okay, and now we're going to enact all of the things that you warned us about and you said that we were going to do because now we have the power.
Wow. Johnny, I appreciate you coming on. Johnny Vedmore, folks. Where can people find you, Johnny?
Newspaste.com. I'm on most places under Johnny Vedmore, at Johnny Vedmore, and I really welcome communication, interaction, love it. And I'm on most platforms. So thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And let's take you back to ninoscorner.tv. Stay with me for just a second, Johnny.